Hello, I'm Ernestine Collins. Welcome to Writer's Reading. This program is brought to you by WPRG TV5 of Harold, Kentucky. Today on our show, we have as a special guest, Mr. Larry Webster, Pikeville attorney. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about your writing, when you started, what kind of things you write?
I mainly write newspaper columns, and I write some things otherwise. I started writing the newspaper in 1977, and I write songs and a few poems and some essays, which is what I have today.
I love Red Dog.
Well, thank you.
When I know what's going on.
Well, there's a literary concept called studied vagueness. It's where you deliberately try to be a little bit vague so that helps you not to get sued so much. People can read into it what they want. The art of that column is to tell the truth without really telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, you do a good job.
Thank you.
Well, you want to get started?
Yeah, what I'm going to read to you today is kind of an extended Red Dog that I wrote for the Ashland newspaper for their 200th anniversary edition. This is kind of a history of politics in eastern Kentucky. It's called Where's Black Hoof When You Need Him? This talks about the last politician in Kentucky to tell the truth. Historians have searched in vain for the last political figure in Kentucky who either told the truth or stood for anything that really mattered. When historical despair was about to overtake, the enlightened words of undoubtedly Kentucky's last great political leader were unearthed. Are we talking about Burt Combs here or Henry Clay? Nope. It seems the last Kentuckian to talk sense to his political followers was born in 1712 and lived to be about 119 years old. Happy Chandler only seemed to be around that long. His name was Chief Blackhoof, and he was a chief of the Shawnees, the last one before the great Tecumseh. A little while before the wilderness was settled, he and a band of warriors gathered around a campfire near a big spring in what is now eastern Kentucky to eat buffalo corn and turkey without stovetop stuffing. Then and for a good while after, they were feasting in a land of plenty, but a land that was about to be claimed in the name of various monarchs and lesser gods than the Indians knew. Chief Blackhoof had all the characteristics of a good Kentucky politician. He was tall, cunning, and could run fast. Earlier in the French and Indian War, he had led his braves in the defeat of Braddock and had shot at and missed George Washington many times. It was Winston Churchill 200 years later who observed that there is nothing quite so exhilarating as being shot at and missed. Around the fire, Chief Blackhoof sat in silence and got angrier and angrier. He contemplated the coming of the white man until he finally sprang to his feet and burst into impassioned speech that reflected the wisdom of an ancient people. This is what he told his warriors, as recorded. Near this place I first saw the sun, our father, and the moon, our mother. Here, as a boy, I played with other boys and shot my arrows at birds, rabbits, and squirrels. I was happy here until my people moved to the land of the Illinois. While I was still a very small boy, our hunters came from across the mountains and told my people of the coming of strange, pale-faced men in great boats from beyond the big seawater. They said their big boats had great wings, that the men wore shining clothes and rode big, strange animals. They said they carried thunder sticks that made a big noise and long, shining knives that killed their enemies. Since then, my brave warriors, there have been many snows. I have seen these people. I have fought with them beyond the mountains, and I know they are powerful and cruel. Their scouts are now in this land of our fathers, hunting our game and seeking the best places to build their cabins. The Great Spirit has opened my eyes and ears and shown me the way to defend this good land He has given us and our children. We have met around the white man's council fires and made peace talk with them. We must not smoke the peace pipe with them. There must be no more peace talk as long as they hunt our game, kill our people, and take the land of our fathers and our favorite hunting ground. Although they have taken the land toward the rising sun already, and they have already killed or driven off our people, we must hold the land of our fathers. We must dig up the tomahawk and drive our enemies beyond the gates of the mountains. Those were the last recorded words of a political leader in Kentucky, spoken in sincerity, who took into account the welfare of his people and was not concerned with money. In the 200 years that have followed, the history of our politics takes us rather backwards, but the trip has been colorful. When Judge Mulligan declared that politics is the damnedest in Kentucky, he surely was thinking of eastern Kentucky. One of our proudest towns and universities was named after a man elected governor of Kentucky as the nominee of the Know-Nothing Party. Charles S. Moorhead got to be governor in 1855 because of the growing hatred for foreigners and Catholics, which thrust the Know-Nothing Party into alliance with the Whigs. On the night of his election, a riot broke out in Louisville and many were killed in the mob violence. And that was a perfectly good enough reason to name a school and town after him. Unless, of course, Moorhead was named after the other prominent politician of the same name, James T. Moorhead, who was sent by the Kentucky legislature in 1839 to Ohio to solicit laws there to, quote, prevent evil-disposed persons in that state from enticing away or assisting in the escape of slaves from Kentucky, and to provide more efficient means for recapturing slaves by their masters or agents. Of course, Ohio complied. Our political system then, as now, was conducted at two levels. On the important level, our state and local politicians helped non-Kentuckians exploit more and more of the state's natural resources and its agricultural products, while growing numbers of us learned the 3 R's, reading, writing, and the road to Columbus, and took that road in search of greater economic opportunities. On the more practical, down-to-earth level, the purpose of politics in eastern Kentucky was to get people elected and to dole out jobs. In counties that had industry, the ability of a politician to get somebody a job meant his own survival. In other counties, oftentimes the school system was the prime employer, and as a result, school board politics was more important than anything else. What political methods were used? And this is not just history, Ernestine. Votes were either bought directly or by jobs and fear. Local machines became established and aligned themselves with other local machines on behalf of statewide candidates. Local workers, called vote haulers, complied for a carrot or were punished by a stick, namely the loss of those jobs. Legendary figures dominated school board politics. In Carter County, Heman McGuire, a Republican, amassed enormous influence with the school system as his base and withstood scores of investigations, only to finally spend a season in prison at Maxwell Air Force Base on a flimsy charge of underpaying tax. He got his revenge on the system when he got home from prison, when he set up his county for Wendell Ford when Wendell Ford beat Burt Combs. In Morgan County in the 20s, people were killed over the selection of teachers. Two figures in school board politics were not only colorful, but also portend the future impact of women in Kentucky political life. In Menifee County, the lady in red with the white convertible ruled absolutely for many years. George Alice Motley may have had a name of mixed gender, but there was no question about her being a woman. She was an attractive lady given to colorful clothing, and she did in fact drive a white convertible, but her clout went well beyond the borders of her sparsely populated county and continued well into the 1970s. In Breathitt County, Marie Turner built a machine that brought her relatives into every available office in the county, from the courts to the legislature to the school system. A woman of iron will and resolve, she was not to be trifled with. Eastern Kentucky never got very far in statewide politics. Back in the days when conventions nominated people instead of primaries, Bill Fields, named Honest Bill from Olive Hill, served one rather undistinguished term as governor from 1923 to 1927. Republican Simeon Willis from Ashland was elected governor in 1943. That was apparently because all the fighting men were overseas and couldn't vote. The big hope of the Ashland area was can't-miss surefire Terry McBrayer of Greenup, an attorney and majority leader in the Kentucky legislature. In those days, the Julian Carroll faction talked openly of running Kentucky for dozens of years. But a brash upstart who had made some chicken money shed his rather ordinary-looking wife and married Miss America and had other thoughts, especially after reading some polls that showed a large undecided vote. John Y. Brown Jr. filed at the unheard-of late hour of March, spent bushels on ads, had Phyllis smile and flew around in his helicopter, and before you could say extra crispy, the hopes of McBrayer and northeastern Kentucky were dashed. Current Lieutenant Governor Paul Patton is a native of Louisa, and the region now is storing up its hopes again. Lieutenant Governor Patton, after making a fortune in the typical way for us, that is, exploiting natural resources, fulfilled his lifetime ambition. Since he was a boy, he's wanted to be Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky. Some say he can be talked into running for the big job. We'll just have to wait and see and hope that the guy from Wendy's or Magic Johnson doesn't run against him. But we did get a governor from up the Ohio River, and that's about as close as we're going to get for a while, it sounds like to me. Although the name Brereton sounds like some sort of yuppie cheese that you eat with white wine, he does come from Point Pleasant, and he talks a lot like us, and besides, we've always gone to West Virginia for whatever we needed. But we miss the old days. There hasn't been a decent Round County feud in years. Have the Martins and the Bradleys gotten soft? Will anybody ever forget one of the Young brothers being shipped to Lexington in a casket, very much alive, to get him out of town? In one memorable incident, rival factions in one mountain feud killed the election officers. The sheriff, at a loss as to how to get them to jail, went unarmed with a schedule to both sides and told them when to show up at the jail to be processed. We have had our notables. Fred Vinson, the orator and later Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, had 3 set speeches. If he started giving one of them to an audience and it wasn't going over so well, he would switch in mid-paragraph to one of the other 2 and still have one in reserve. And will we ever forget Carl D., as some of the Republicans called him, Cull Pumpkins? He was the master at getting the rest of the country to mail us checks, and that is politics at its American best. Most of our political struggles now concerns themselves with temperance. Even Ashland became a place where a dry man could enjoy the same privilege as somebody from Coal Grove. Wet, dry elections in which liquor is fought in the name of the Lord are usually the most dishonest ones of all. One side claims that whiskey will bring in enough revenue to pave the streets with platinum, and the other undertakes to judge for other people what to do. Meanwhile, Kentucky's most unique product, homemade corn liquor, continues to flourish. But like most Kentucky economic ventures, the public doesn't gain anything from it. Our current political problems deal with the fact that it is increasingly difficult to steal or buy votes with those blasted voting machines. You can do it with absentees. One Pike County wag was heard to exclaim while watching the absentees being counted in a wet, dry vote, "Damn, we lost Detroit too." If education reform works, precinct workers won't be able to vote the illiterate any way that they've been paid to. It's got to where school board positions are now a surefire way to get into the pen. More people stay at home and watch Family Feud than enjoy a real one. In the 200 years that have followed Chief Black Hoof, and in the absence of what Harry Cottle, who had more sense about the mountains than the entire board of directors of Armco and Ashland Oil and A.T. Massey put together, In the absence of what Harry Cottle called an Appalachian land epic, the Hill people of northeastern Kentucky have become willing collaborators with their political leaders in the destruction of their own region. Whether it is helping Ashland Oil ram its private laws through the legislature, or cutting down on the regulation of oil and gas or mining, the emergent thread that runs so true in our political life has been to keep taxes low on mineral properties and corporations and railroads, to pacify the Fords, the Mellons, the Rockefellers, and their heirs, and to help them augment their fortunes. Low taxes on minerals, railroads, and oil companies are accompanied by low taxes on farms and private homes. Our politicians, having neither money nor courage, cannot afford decent schools, roads, or medical services, and have turned their attention to aiding and abetting the exportation at bargain basement prices of all that we have that is valuable. We have supplied generations of hard-working and dependable workers for Detroit. We have poorly paid and maimed our timber workers to ship our valuable hardwoods to faraway places where excellent wages are earned when those woods are turned into furniture. We suck zillions of cubic feet of natural gas from beneath our soil and buy it back at rates higher than the rest of the country pays. We have allowed coal to tyrannize our political system and destroy our economy. Coal has turned us from an independent, agricultural sort of simple people to industrial workers with no future. The Addington brothers donated slightly less than $300,000 to the last governor's administration in exchange for the right, with others, to take dynamite and bulldozers and do what is called mountaintop removal. Whence do we get the moral authority to remove the tops of mountains? Fly over eastern Kentucky and weep to see that every ridge is in jeopardy. Strip mining could be abolished tomorrow, quite legally, and the next day thousands of jobs would be created mining that coal honorably under the ground. I will say it again. The abolition of strip mining would create thousands of new jobs immediately, not to mention saving what is left of some of the last wild and beautiful country left in the world. Country so beautiful that Chief Black Hoof would fight other tribes over the right to hunt on it, but so rugged that he would not live there. We have the best politicians that money can buy, and now we know just how little it takes. For about the price of a medium-range lawnmower, a Kentucky legislator will vote for anything. Of course, that didn't apply to Ashland's Charlie Holbrook, who voted no so much they sent the electrician to check to see if his machine had stopped.
There you have a unique way of looking at things.
Well, thank you.
I enjoyed that.
Well, thank you very much. We try to stir people up a little bit.
I think you do a good job. I'd like to read a poem to you today called Promises He Made to Her. Promises he made to her when they were very young. Sacred vows of faithfulness flowed sweetly from his tongue. Totally obsessed with her, he knew their life would be, lived just like a fairy tale, and ended happily. She was full of love for him and glad to be his bride, knowing through the storms of life she'd never leave his side. Basking in his words of love, she planned a family. All she'd ever need was him, and children, 2 or 3. Years and having babies made her change before his eyes. She had lost her wit and charm. His vows had not been wise. Though he too had aged a bit, her love for him just grew. He was still her charming prince, and she'd always be true. Promises he broke one night, and how her heart weeps now. He knows, though, their love was not the real thing anyhow. Thank you for joining us today, and we want to thank Dr. Don and WPRG TV5 and Larry Webster. Thank you for being with us, and we hope you'll join us again sometime.
I'll try.
Okay. Until next week, may God bless you.